The sun peeked over the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and gold. It was a new dawn in Bethsaida, a humble fishing village nestled on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. The year was 1 BC, a time of Roman rule and simmering Jewish unrest. Yet life in Bethsaida carried on at its own pace, dictated by the rhythms of nature and the age-old tradition of fishing. Simon, a young man with calloused hands and a sun-weathered face, was already awake. He had inherited the trade from his father, Jonah, a respected fisherman in the community. Simon's world revolved around the glistening waters of the lake, the sturdy wooden boats, and the anticipation of a good catch. Life as a fisherman was tough, demanding grit and resilience. Long nights were spent battling the elements, hoping for a bountiful harvest from the deep, but Simon didn't mind. The lake was his lifeblood, its vastness a source of both challenge and solace. Little did he know that his life, so deeply intertwined with the tangible world of nets and fish, was about to be touched by the divine. A single encounter would forever change the course of his life, setting him on a path he could never have imagined. Simon worked alongside his brother, Andrew. They were a team, their movements synchronized from years of shared labor. Theirs was a partnership built on trust, each brother knowing the other's strengths and weaknesses. One evening, after a particularly frustrating day with little to show for their efforts, they were cleaning their nets by the shore. The air was thick with the smell of salt and fish, and a palpable sense of disappointment hung over them. As they worked, a figure approached them, his silhouette outlined against the setting sun. It was Jesus of Nazareth, a young rabbi whose teachings had been stirring hearts and challenging traditions. Andrew, who had been listening to Jesus, turned to Simon, excitement in his eyes. "We have found the Messiah!" he exclaimed, his voice filled with conviction. Simon, initially skeptical, felt a flicker of curiosity. He had heard whispers of this Jesus, of his miracles and teachings. Could this be the one they had been waiting for, the one prophesied to liberate their people? Jesus looked at Simon, his gaze piercing yet compassionate. "Come, follow me," he said, his voice gentle yet authoritative, "and I will make you fishers of men." The words, so simple yet profound, resonated deep within Simon. It was a call to leave behind the familiar, to embrace a life less ordinary. Simon hesitated for a moment, his mind grappling with the magnitude of the request. Could he abandon his livelihood, his family, his entire way of life? As if reading his thoughts, Jesus smiled, a knowing smile that seemed to say, "Trust me." In that instant, something shifted within Simon. It was a leap of faith, a surrender to the unknown. He looked at his brother, then back at Jesus, and a quiet determination settled over him. "I will follow you," he said, his voice firm despite the tremor in his heart. With those words, Simon, the fisherman from Bethsaida, took his first steps on a journey that would lead him to become Peter, the rock upon which Christ would build his church. Section 4. Walking on water and witnessing wonders, the making of a disciple. From that day forward, Simon's life was irrevocably intertwined with Jesus's. He became one of Jesus's closest disciples, accompanying him on his travels, witnessing firsthand the power of his teachings and miracles. He saw the sick healed, the blind see, and the dead raised. He was there when Jesus calmed the raging storm, his voice commanding the wind and waves to be still. One night, caught in a sudden tempest while crossing the Sea of Galilee, Simon found himself terrified, his faith shaken to the core. He cried out to Jesus for help, and in a moment that would forever define his faith, Jesus reached out his hand and said, "Take courage. It is I, don't be afraid." Emboldened by Jesus' words, Simon stepped out of the boat and onto the turbulent water. For a brief, glorious moment he walked on water, but as doubt crept in, his gaze shifted from Jesus to the raging storm, and he began to sink. "Lord, save me," he cried out, his faith momentarily faltering. Jesus, reaching out a hand to steady him, said, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" Section 5. From Doubt to Devotion, the Trials and Triumphs of Peter. Peter's journey of faith was not without its share of missteps and moments of doubt. He was impulsive, often speaking before thinking, his heart filled with a fervent desire to please his master. When Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do you say I am?" it was Peter who boldly declared, "You are the Messiah," the Son of the living God. Yet this same Peter, out of fear and self-preservation, would deny knowing Jesus 3 times in the hours leading up to the crucifixion. The weight of his betrayal crushed him, the guilt unbearable. But even in his darkest hour, Jesus' love for him never wavered. There were personal moments too that revealed the depth of Peter's faith and the transformative power of Jesus' love. When his mother-in-law lay sick with a fever, Jesus healed her with a touch. This personal experience of Jesus' compassion touched Peter deeply, solidifying his belief in Jesus' divine power. Section 6. The Rock and the Promise, Peter's enduring legacy. After the resurrection, Jesus appeared to his disciples, including a guilt-ridden Peter. He didn't rebuke Peter for his denial, but instead, in a gesture of forgiveness and reinstatement, entrusted him with the care of his flock. "Feed my sheep," Jesus commanded him, reaffirming his faith in Peter's devotion. Empowered by the Holy Spirit, Peter, once a simple fisherman, became a bold preacher, sharing the good news of Jesus' resurrection with unwavering conviction. He traveled far and wide, spreading the message of love, forgiveness, and salvation. Peter's life, once defined by his nets and boats, became a testament to the transformative power of faith. He faced persecution and imprisonment, yet his spirit remained unbroken. He ultimately died a martyr's death, crucified upside down, his faith unwavering to the very end. Peter, the rock, lived up to the name Jesus had given him. He became a pillar of the early church, his faith, despite its moments of faltering, an inspiration for generations to come. His story reminds us that it is in our weakness that Christ's strength is made perfect, and that even in our moments of doubt and failure, God's love and grace are always available to lift us up and set us back on the path of faith.